Record to this computer. Okay.
Yeah, do I keep talking?
Welcome everyone, and welcome particularly to Harry Goodman today, who's a very experienced IT practitioner, introduced to us by Richard King. Harry, I've heard a lot of good things about you, so please do speak to us for about 10 minutes about what you do in your business and how you do it and how you make people richer, better, faster, etc. Afterwards, we'll have some questions. People do please remember that you are live on Channel 4, so please do not swear. Okay, Harry, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. I've always felt like saying when you say that at the beginning of these things that they swear a lot on Channel 4, and I think maybe I should maintain the tradition. But maybe I won't. I'm also concerned that Tim's here because, of course, he may effectively pull my trousers down and say that I'm talking rubbish. But I've got a couple of options that I could talk about. One of them is working from home systems and how that's done, and whether or not that's of any interest to anybody depends on whether or not you are effectively working remotely from an office, in which case that has some relevance. But if you always work at home and all your infrastructure is there, then it perhaps doesn't make any difference, at least from your point of view. And the other one is to talk about moving your internet service provider, because I've had a few conversations with people recently who thought that changing their ISP will mean they'll lose access to their email, and they've got their website with the ISP, and that'll go, and the sky will fall in if they do that. And I spent a bit of time explaining that, in fact, you can have control over all of that as a series of separate components. So I talk about either of those things, and I'm interested to know whether anybody has any views one way or the other.
Yes, escaping from BT would be heaven. I've just posted it in the chat box, and I think the stuff on working from home would be really good as well. So both of those. Okay,
well, I'll try and jam both of them in that case. First of all, working from home. Tim may confirm or deny this or say that I'm talking rubbish, but all too often, it seems to me, people working for companies, when they're sent home to work from home, they're given a laptop to take home, and the company set up a VPN, and so they can get back into the office and access the office resources. And then they go home and use that laptop as if they were sitting in the office, so all the work is done done locally on that laptop, and it looks down the network, down the VPN to the resources at the company. And whilst that works after a fashion, and sometimes okay, it's possible to do it a great deal more efficiently than that, by making use of the extremely limited resource that is your internet connection. And I think it's often not really thought about how large an internet connection. People say, well, if they've got a 20 meg download ADSL connection, that's okay. And of course, in some ways it is okay. But yeah, even if you've got a 10 meg download, that's okay from an internet connection point of view. But I don't think anybody's ever really thought about how that compares with the bandwidth available when you've got an office network, when you're sitting in the office. And I'm just about to try sharing this graphic. Let's see whether it does.
Yes.
Can you see 3 dots, effectively? There's a large green one.
Yes.
Okay, well, the large green one, and these are to scale, but the large green one represents the size of the pipe on your gigabit LAN connection, your local area network connection in your office. And so that's the size of the pipe down which all the traffic between you and your presumably local servers is using. The amber one down below is a 10 meg download, and it's 1/100th of the size of that big green pipe. And so when you're operating down a network, perhaps with a MAC drive at home with an office connection, that's the size of the pipe you're using. And that's just for getting it down to you. For writing it back up to the server, that little red dot down below, 1/5 of that, maybe you've got 2 meg upload. That's the size of the pipe that you're working with. Now, of course, connections vary a lot, and I've just taken a connection with GigaClear here, which is just extraordinary in terms of speed. The GigaClear customer service is appalling, but the connection when it's working is really excellent. I opted for 300 meg, and it's fast, but you know, most people don't have that. So it's worth thinking about this restricted size of connection when you're trying to decide what to do down it. And in the past, we've used a thing called remote desktop very successfully. You may be aware that you can control a PC remotely from somewhere else using Windows's inbuilt remote desktop protocol thing, RDP. And it's a lot better to do that down, use that down your VPN connection, because perhaps counterintuitively, that's a more efficient way of working. And it means that you can control a PC that's sitting in the office, and all you're doing is looking at a picture of it and controlling it down your VPN connection. Of course, when you think about that, you also have to think about the fact that the company's own internet connection is a factor in this. And so you may think that it might be good if you could remove that from the equation. And this is where putting all your company data out in the cloud is potentially a very good thing to be doing, because generally speaking, in the cloud, internet connectivity is very good. So if you can remove one bottleneck from that loop and take out the company connection and connect directly to the company data that's sitting in the cloud, then so much the better. And if you're going to do that, you say, well, what will I control? And of course, you can use some stuff called virtual desktop infrastructure now, so you can spin up a PC in the cloud and control that remotely. And if it's sitting on the same infrastructure, essentially, say Microsoft's with Azure, and you've got your email in Office 365 and your data store in SharePoint or OneDrive in Microsoft, you've effectively got rid of the company internet connection. And that could even work perfectly well for those when you're back in the office too, if they're operating in that way. So there are a number of things you could do, but using your laptop at home as if you were sitting in the office is probably the least good of those. I could go on, I probably won't about that. Internet connections and changing them. As I said earlier, I've had two conversations with people who wanted to move their ISP but felt that they couldn't because their email was tied up with their internet service provider. They've got a BT internet email address, and that their website was also tied up with the ISP. And we spent some time talking through each of those things and talking about how, in fact, each of those services is potentially completely separate, and that you can be having your web hosting somewhere else. It doesn't have to be tied to your ISP, and your email service can be from somewhere else too. You'd be better off having your own domain name and hosting the email service with any number of other email service providers than your ISP. And that was a bit of a surprise, and I was a bit surprised that it was a surprise. So anyway, that's I could go on about that too, but probably I'm running out of time. I think I'll kill that connection. I'm interested to know whether anybody has any views on it, any of that, and whether that's in any way useful or not.
Yes, I would be very interested to know how I get rid of BT, because they're expensive. Well, it seems to me they're expensive.
How much do you pay?
It seems like I have £100 a month going out of my bank account.
Good grief, with BT?
No, £100 a quarter, rather. So
right.
For sort of various, that doesn't include broadband. That's about the same, I think. The phone line's expensive, and as is so the business phone line is very expensive. My residential line is a lot cheaper, and the phone line's expensive, and then all the internet services and the hosting of websites and all that sort of thing comes out about £100 a quarter.
That's quite a lot of money, isn't it? Mind you, the internet connection, my GigClear internet connection is £32 a month at the moment, I think. Yeah. I long since did away with
at home, Harry? Is
Sorry?
That your GigClear at home?
Yes, it is, but I operate from home, so I mean, I didn't bother with a business connection. I couldn't see the point, really.
So what's the procedure for shifting emails from BT to someone else?
the first thing probably would be to buy your own domain name.
Yeah.
And then you've got control of your mail that way. You've got an allenkennedy.co.uk email address, and you can host that at any number of mail providers. Whether it's, you could use Office 365, or you could use Gmail, or there are loads of ways of hosting your mail somewhere else. Some free, probably better paid for, but not horrendously expensive.
The issue with the free ones is the quality of their security around the email systems. In most cases, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So you'll get hacked and messed about with in the current cyber environment. So you're better off going with bigger players, paying a little bit more, but you will get a better service and you won't get hacked all the time.
I certainly agree with that. But some people don't really feel like paying for their mail service. Go.
Harry, how inexpensive is it to set up a VPN? Because we're struggling at the moment working through OneDrive. There's 4 of us, and sometimes OneDrive lags a little bit. So Donna comes in a couple of times a week, and it lives in Denham. Mitchell lives in Harrow, and Matthew, he's in Stanmore. But sometimes I find that when they're working on documents and I'm looking at them an hour later, they still haven't been updated. So somebody did say to us, why don't you get a VPN? Because it's...
A VPN to where, though? Would you think about putting it back in your office?
I'd have it in my office, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder whether that would be... you can do that, but of course you've got to have... First of all, you've got to have some storage in your office. Presumably you do have.
Yeah, I've got something called Synology.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So a Synology drive, which sits kind of like over there at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know how much space it's got in it, but maybe you and I could have a one-to-one on that, like talking about the structure and...
You could do. Of course, you then have to have some means of making the VPN back into your office. So that probably would involve buying some device to enable that to happen.
Yeah. Okay, so there are ways of doing that,
there are ways of doing it. I'd question whether or not it was the right way to go, though, if you're using OneDrive. Tim's shaking his head.
No?
Yeah, the thing is your OneDrive is in the cloud already, so it'll work at the speed of your internet connection. So if your home internet for all the staff are working to the internet, then the speed and performance is controlling how quickly that is going to work. So putting a VPN in is not going to make a significant difference, if any difference at all.
Okay.
Might make it worse, in fact.
In most cases, it won't make any difference. It might make it worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so stay put with OneDrive, really.
It depends how you're working with OneDrive. If you've got a lot of data in there and it's all shared around the people, you're better off moving to SharePoint and having smaller libraries, and they will work better. I've just moved somebody from OneDrive to SharePoint, and they're all there. The same libraries with the same data, reorganized, is working 5 times faster.
Okay. So we have SharePoint already, yeah.
Yeah, well, it comes with your package. So SharePoint is for sharing amongst the team. OneDrive is for your own personal data, really.
Okay. All right, yeah, I'll give that a go. Moving a few libraries around or creating the libraries first in the first instance.
The key thing is to keep them under 5,000 items.
Oh, okay.
And that keeps them working well. They've taken the lid off, so you can go up to 25, 30,000 items, but it slows it down again.
Okay, fine, lovely. Thank you.
I use a cloud server, which I VPN into, and that works amazingly well. We don't have to wait for documents to be uploaded particularly, or not that we do, just saving everything to the C drive. And I remember when I installed it 10 years ago, my staff in Armabed said, it's quicker for us to access your cloud server, which is data based in London, owned by you and me, controlled by a firm in Exeter, than it is for us to access our server 5 yards away in Armabed. So, it was an amazing, and has been an amazing breath of fresh air to me that with the cloud server. So, Harry, what do you think of cloud servers?
Well, I have to confess that for a considerable period of time, I had my enthusiasm for them well under control, mostly because it's to do with ownership of the data and its location, and do you feel comfortable with it being somewhere else? Yeah, there was always the vague feeling that it was more secure if you had it, that it was behind whatever protections you had, which probably weren't particularly good in truth, but you felt because it was on site that maybe it was,
Yeah.
you had it. And there are, of course, business-related possible objections to cloud services, such as, what do you do if you have a billing dispute with your supplier and they pull the service, or the supplier goes down? But I have to confess I've got over myself in that respect, and the benefits are just too great to ignore, really.
Yeah,
So,
I back up all my data to somewhere other than the cloud server. So if a cloud server went down, I could turn them off today and start somewhere else tomorrow.
that's exactly right. In the old days, when all your data was on premises, one of the best practice requirements was to get a copy of it off premises, so that if you had a fire, you still have access to it somewhere. Now that's been turned upside down, really. With everything off premises, it's not a bad idea to make sure you've got a copy on. So,
my only problem is Microsoft, because I have no idea how to get a backup of my 20 million emails or whatever it is. So
you can buy products for doing that.
Yeah, we have solutions for that. We had a client just put the backup on a week ago. Within 3 days later, he overwrote a major file. So we were able to restore it within 5 minutes, and he was delighted. So, yeah. But you can back up from cloud to cloud. So you've got different, your data's in different data centers with different companies. That gives you added protection.
Yeah. Any other IT questions for these gurus? It's turning into a free IT clinic, which I think is wonderful. I do love free advice.
Any tips on email encryption? Like, sort of, our emails are really, really sensitive. Some of the stuff that we pass through client to client. I'm not talking about passports and utility bills at all. I'm talking about, I don't know. I've got a client at the moment, Johnny, who I've literally signed up about 10 days ago. But he sent me an email. The first email he sent me was how we're going to sort out this £800,000 a year gambling debt that I've got. And then I think, well, how do I encrypt that so that it's only I could,
Well, I have to be honest and say the last time I saw an email encryption that we put any effort into was about 10 years ago, and it was pretty awful then. I don't know what Tim has to say about that.
There are 3 or 4 applications that you integrate into Office, Outlook, and you can encrypt the emails, you can encrypt attachments, or either or both. And it's very simple to use. So it's all done with you have your own key, you share a public key with them, so you can agree a password, and then, or you can share the actual certificate. So if you've both got the same software, the same certificate. We have clients with that. We use it ourselves. All of our machines are encrypted. We can send encrypted passwords around ourselves or to clients, and then we give them a password and they can open it. So it's seamless. Once they know what the password is or they're part of the software, you don't even notice it's encrypted, because it de-encrypts it on the fly between the people who are allowed to use it. So you can have teams within teams. So you can have a general, so you can say, I'm encrypting it for the whole company, so everybody in the company can do it, or I'm encrypting it with the key for just accounts, so only people in the accounts department, or only people in the HR, or only people in this team or that team. So it's very easy to do. We have a server that manages it all. So I set it all up for people and then roll it out, and it works. So it's seamless and it's very secure. So there are solutions out there.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Harry, what's your view on localized laptops? Because quite a lot of my data is on my laptop. I can't understand why laptops don't come readily encrypted already and are so insecure. So I'm told by IT gurus that anyone could take my laptop and override the password in about 20 seconds. Why don't they come pre-encrypted, and is it easy to encrypt them?
Yeah, it's easy to encrypt them. Managing it can be a problem remotely. I would say, why keep your data in the laptop at all?
Okay.
Why not put it somewhere else in the way that we've just been describing?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Windows does provide an encryption tool called BitLocker. The problem with that is you have to link it to a Microsoft account with a 48-bit code. And if you lose access to that code, you can't decrypt it or do anything. And I've had people had a faulty motherboard on a Microsoft laptop, and it went in for service. They said, sorry, we can't get at the disk. So we've had to replace the motherboard and replace you with a new drive. There you go. And you go, where's my data? Well, it's on this drive. Here you are. It's encrypted. You can't get at it. So I was able to get at that key and decrypt it and then put the data back on that machine. But that was one thing. So that's why we don't like BitLocker, because it has no management control. So we use a management system where we can reset passwords. So if people lock themselves out, we can get them back in. But if somebody steals the machine, they can't do anything with that machine. They can't get the data off it. They can't even get into Windows because they have to pass the password. And if they try 5 times, it locks the machine. End of. So, yeah. So if you want to have data kept safe, the thing is, I understand what Harry says. If you've got all your data online, you don't store it locally, that's great. But if you go on a train and you've got no internet connection, what are you going to do? So in that case, you could download certain data to work on. When you're finished, upload it and clean it back off the machine. But you can have both, encrypt your machine, and then it's safe.
Okay. Any other questions? Right. Okay. V needs to disappear. So thank you, V, for turning up and saying hello to us. Okay. Thank you very much, Harry. I better stop recording and